Red emergency lights pulsed through the dimming corridors of the celestial dawn, casting eerie shadows across the once pristine research vessel. The ship's bulkheads groaned under invisible pressures, metal fatigue manifesting as ominous creaks that echoed through the failing life support systems. Captain Veltar steadied himself against the command console, his segmented limbs trembling slightly as another power surge caused the main view screen to flicker. "Status report," he chittered, his mandibles clicking with the formal precision expected of Coalition officers. The captain's compound eyes reflected the crimson warning lights, giving his mantis-like face an almost demonic appearance in the failing illumination. Around him, the bridge crew struggled to maintain composure. Their breathing had grown labored as oxygen levels continued to drop, and Veltar could see the strain in their movements. He knew they had hours left, at most. "Life support continues to deteriorate, Captain," responded Zix, the ship's chief engineer. The blue-skinned alien's forearms moved rapidly across 3 separate control panels, her slender fingers dancing over emergency protocols that had long since failed to stabilize their situation. The antimatter containment failure damaged more systems than initially assessed. "We're running on emergency power only, and even that's failing." Beside her, Glix oozed slightly forward in his hover chair, the slug-like communications officer's eye stalks drooping with fatigue. "Long-range communications remain offline. Captain, we can broadcast, but the array is damaged. Signal strength is minimal." Veltar absorbed this information with the stoic demeanor his species was known for, though inside, his secondary heart pounded with growing alarm. The Celestial Dawn had been dispatched on a classified research mission, carrying a prototype weapon, the Dimensional Disruptor, whose very existence was known to only the highest echelons of the Coalition's military command. Now they drifted helplessly, 2 days' jump from the nearest Coalition outpost in the Sol system. Looking around at his small crew, Zix, Glix, and the 2 research scientists huddled at their stations, Veltar was painfully aware that they were academics and explorers, not soldiers. None had been prepared for catastrophic system failure in deep space. "Have we received any response to our distress calls?" Veltar asked, already knowing the answer but following protocol to its bitter end. "Nothing, sir," Glix confirmed, his body contracting slightly with each labored breath. "We've been broadcasting the Coalition emergency frequency for 26 hours. Either no one is within range, or—" He left the alternative unspoken, or they had been abandoned. The mission was classified, after all. Sometimes in Coalition politics, it was more convenient for secrets to disappear into the void. Veltar's inner eyelids flicked closed momentarily as he contemplated their situation. The Galactic Coalition had governed known space for nearly 3 centuries, bringing together over 40 sentient species under its banner of peaceful cooperation and scientific advancement. Its protocols were clear. All distress signals were to be answered, all lives valued. But there were exceptions: dangerous technologies, classified missions, the quarantine. His thoughts drifted to Earth, the isolated human homeworld that had been under strict quarantine for 50 standard years. The Coalition's official stance was that humans were volatile Deathworlders, evolved on a planet so hostile that it had bred aggression, cunning, and violence into their very DNA. Too dangerous for integration into galactic society, they claimed. Keep them contained, keep them watched. Captain, Glix interrupted his thoughts, voice quavering. "I may have a suggestion." "Proceed." We could send an unencrypted SOS to Earth." A hush fell over the bridge. Even the ship's groaning seemed to quiet at this heretical suggestion. "The humans are quarantined for good reason," Veltar responded automatically, reciting Coalition doctrine, Contact is forbidden. With respect, sir, Zix interjected, her voice weakening as she struggled to draw breath. We'll be dead within hours. The Coalition isn't responding. The humans are just beyond the Oort boundary of this system. They monitor these frequencies. Everyone knows that, even if we pretend not to notice. Veltar's mandibles clicked rapidly, an involuntary stress response. What you're suggesting violates at least 7 different Coalition protocols. And following protocols will get us all killed, Glix countered. Unusual boldness emanating from the normally timid communications officer. Besides, Captain, what do we really know about humans? Only what the Coalition has told us. What did they know, indeed? Veltar had never met a human. Few Coalition citizens had. But the stories were enough. Descendants of apex predators, capable of sustained violence, enduring horrific injuries that would kill most species, pursuing prey for days without rest. The Coalition's decision to quarantine Earth after first contact had been presented as a necessary precaution. Yet something had always troubled Veltar about the arrangement. Why did Coalition ships still patrol the quarantine boundary? Why did some of the highest-ranking officers disappear into Earth's system for inspection tours that remained classified? And why was the dimensional disruptor, a weapon capable of tearing holes in space-time itself, being transported so close to the human quarantine zone? Veltar looked at his dying crew. His duty was clear: save their lives if possible. The cargo, while important, was secondary to that prime directive. "Send the message," he said finally, his voice quiet but firm. "Unencrypted SOS on all frequencies, but Glix, make it clear we are a research vessel, unarmed, in distress." As Glix hurried to comply, Veltar added silently to himself, "And pray the stories about human mercy are exaggerated as much as the stories about their violence." The message was simple. Coalition research vessel, Celestial Dawn, in critical distress. Life support failing. 5 crew members. Unarmed. Request immediate assistance. Coordinates follow. Then they waited. Oxygen levels continued to drop. One of the research scientists, a crystalline being named Quartz, had entered a state of semi-hibernation to conserve air for the others. The second scientist, a feathered bipedal named Trill, had collapsed at her station, breathing shallow but stable. Zix worked tirelessly despite her weakening condition, attempting to reroute emergency power to essential systems. Veltar had ordered non-essential lights extinguished to conserve energy, leaving the bridge bathed primarily in the red glow of emergency lighting. The temperature had dropped noticeably as environmental controls faltered, and frost had begun forming on the bulkheads. "Nothing," Glix reported, dejection evident in his drooping eye stalks. "No response from any—" "Wait!" A soft ping emanated from his console, then another. "Captain," Glix whispered, voice trembling with either fear or hope. "We're receiving a response." Veltar moved swiftly to the communications station, mandibles clicking rapidly. "Source? It's a human vessel, the Iron Resolve." Before Veltar could process this information, Zix called out from her station. "Captain, long-range scanners are detecting an approaching ship. It's moving at incredible speed. They'll reach us in less than 20 minutes. 20 minutes? Veltar echoed in disbelief. "That's impossible. Even with the latest Coalition drive technology, the nearest outpost is hours away at maximum burn." Zix's blue skin had paled to a sickly azure. "The readings are clear, sir, and their energy signature. I've never seen anything like it." As the minutes ticked by, the scanners revealed more details about the approaching vessel. The Iron Resolve was sleek, heavily armed, and moving at speeds that defied Coalition understanding of physics. It was unquestionably a warship, though of a design unfamiliar to any of the Celestial Dawn's databases. "They're hailing us," Glix announced, his voice steadier now that action had replaced uncertainty. "On screen," Veltar ordered, straightening his posture despite his fatigue. The view screen flickered to life, and for the first time in his life, Captain Veltar found himself face to face with a human. The being looking back at him had pale skin, short dark hair, and facial features that seemed strangely flat compared to most Coalition species. But what struck Veltar most were the eyes, dark, alert, and utterly predatory. "This is Captain James Morrison of the Earth vessel Iron Resolve," the human said, his voice surprisingly melodic despite the underlying strength. "We received your distress call. Prepare for boarding and emergency assistance. Our ETA is 12 minutes. Before Veltar could respond, the transmission ended. "Aboarding?" Zix whispered. "They're coming aboard?" Veltar's mind raced. The dimensional disruptor was secured in the cargo hold, its very existence classified beyond even his full understanding. And now they had summoned humans, quarantined, mysterious humans, directly to it. But what choice did they have? They were dying. "Zix, Glix," he ordered. "Prepare for their arrival. I'll meet them at the docking bay." The 12 minutes passed in a blur of preparation and mounting tension. Veltar had reviewed what little the ship's database contained about human physiology and behavior, mostly warnings about their unpredictable nature and physical resilience. None of it prepared him for the reality. The docking procedure was executed with precision that would have impressed the Coalition's finest pilots. The Iron Resolve matched velocity with the crippled research vessel and extended a docking collar that sealed with their airlock despite the Celestial Dawn's structural damage. When the airlock cycled open, Veltar found himself facing two humans in form-fitting black uniforms overlaid with what appeared to be body armor. The first to step through was female, her face marked with a scar that ran from temple to jaw. She carried herself with unmistakable military bearing, and the weapon holstered at her side looked both unfamiliar and deeply concerning. "Lieutenant Colonel Amy Brooks," she introduced herself, eyes scanning the corridor with predatory efficiency. "This is Dr. Lisa Grant, our chief medical officer." The second human was also female, shorter and with a softer expression, though no less alert. She carried a large case that presumably contained medical equipment. "Captain Veltar," he responded with a formal bow of his upper body. "On behalf of my crew, I thank you for responding to our distress signal." Brooks nodded curtly. "Your life support is critical. Dr. Grant will begin treatment for your crew immediately. Our engineers are standing by to address your ship's systems. Your crew requires medical attention first," Dr. Grant added, her voice calm yet authoritative. "Please direct me to them." Veltar hesitated only briefly before leading them toward the bridge. As they walked, Brooks spoke again, her tone casual yet somehow demanding. "Captain, your distress call mentioned you're a research vessel. What exactly are you researching out here, so close to Earth's system?" The question sent a jolt of panic through Veltar's system. "Standard Coalition deep space observations," he lied, mandibles clicking nervously. "Nothing of particular note." Brooks's eyes narrowed slightly, but she didn't press further, at least not verbally. Her hand, however, never strayed far from her weapon. Upon reaching the bridge, Dr. Grant immediately began attending to the collapsed crew members. From her case, she produced instruments unfamiliar to Veltar, along with vials of medication that she somehow knew would be compatible with each species' unique physiology. "How do you?" Veltar began, watching in amazement as Trill's breathing stabilized almost immediately after an injection. "We've studied Coalition biology extensively," Grant replied without looking up from her work. "Part of our ongoing education during quarantine. Before Veltar could process the implications of this statement, more humans arrived, engineers in utilitarian jumpsuits carrying equipment that looked both advanced and battle-hardened. Chief Rodriguez and his team, Brooks explained, they'll get your life support and power core functioning again. But the antimatter containment system was critically damaged. Veltar protested. Our own engineers estimated repairs would take days, even at a properly equipped facility. Brooks's smile didn't reach her eyes. Chief Rodriguez has certain talents. Indeed, within hours. The human engineers had not only stabilized the life support systems, but had also managed to restore partial power to the main systems. They worked with a speed and efficiency that left Zix, now recovered enough to observe their methods, in a state of stunned admiration. Their technology, she whispered to Veltar when they had a moment alone. Captain, they're decades beyond Coalition standards. The techniques Chief Rodriguez is using to stabilize our power core, I've never seen anything like them. Veltar had noticed. The humans moved with purpose and confidence, using tools that seemed deceptively simple yet accomplished in minutes what should have taken hours. They spoke in short, precise sentences, coordinating their efforts with minimal communication, as though each could anticipate the other's needs. It was both awe-inspiring and deeply unsettling. As repairs continued, Dr. Grant had successfully stabilized all crew members, even bringing Quartz out of hibernation safely. The atmosphere aboard the Celestial Dawn had improved significantly, both literally, as oxygen levels normalized, and figuratively as the immediate danger passed. But Captain Veltar's unease only grew. Lieutenant Colonel Brooks had been systematically inspecting the vessel, her questions becoming more pointed, her interest in the cargo hold increasingly evident. It was only a matter of time before she demanded to see what they carried. And when that moment came, Veltar realized he would have to make a choice that might determine not just his fate, but potentially that of the Coalition itself. The humans had saved them, but at what cost? Captain Veltar. Brooks approached him on the bridge, her posture relaxed yet somehow more threatening than before. Your ship is stabilized. Your crew is recovering. Now I think it's time we discussed your cargo. The moment Veltar had been dreading had arrived. Behind Brooks stood Captain Morrison, who had boarded the Celestial Dawn an hour earlier. His presence emanated quiet authority in a way that made Veltar's exoskeleton tingle with primitive warning signals. I don't know what you mean. Veltar attempted mandibles clicking rapidly in what any Coalition species would recognize as a sign of distress. Morrison's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes hardened. Captain, we detected the dimensional disruptor the moment we came within range. Its energy signature is distinctive. Ice flooded Veltar's circulatory system. How could you possibly know about... The quarantine works both ways, Captain, Morrison interrupted smoothly. It keeps us in, yes, but it also gives us certain freedoms to develop technologies and intelligence networks the Coalition might find concerning. A new voice joined the conversation, Zix, who had been working nearby with Chief Rodriguez. Captain, we're receiving a transmission, Coalition frequencies. Put it through, Veltar ordered, grateful for the interruption. The view screen flickered to life, revealing the stern countenance of Admiral Keithmore, a high-ranking Coalition official whom Veltar recognized but had never personally met. Captain Veltar, the Admiral began without preamble. Our sensors detect a human vessel has docked with the Celestial Dawn. Explain this breach of quarantine protocols immediately. Veltar straightened, falling back on formal military protocol. Admiral, the Celestial Dawn suffered catastrophic system failures. We were facing imminent death when... That is irrelevant. Keithmore cut him off. Your mission parameters were clear. The cargo you carry is of utmost importance to Coalition security. A battle group has been dispatched to your location. They will eliminate the human vessel and recover the cargo. Prepare for their arrival in 6 hours. The transmission ended before Veltar could respond, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Eliminate? Zix whispered, her blue skin paling further. Morrison and Brooks exchanged glances that communicated volumes in their silence. It seems, Morrison said finally, his voice deceptively calm, that your coalition values the dimensional disruptor more than it values your lives. Veltar's mind reeled. The Admiral hadn't asked about their condition, hadn't expressed relief at their survival. Only the cargo mattered, and the casual order to destroy the human vessel that had saved them. This doesn't make sense, he protested. Coalition protocols prioritize life above all else, even for a classified mission. Does it not make sense? Morrison asked quietly. Or does it simply not match what you've been told to believe? Before Veltar could process this, Brooks stepped forward. Captain, we have approximately 5 hours before your coalition friends arrive. That gives you a choice to make. What choice? Veltar asked, though he already suspected the answer. You can wait here for your battle group, hand over the disruptor, and watch as they attempt to destroy our ship, an attempt I assure you will not end as they expect. Morrison stated flatly. Or you can come with us, bringing the disruptor, and learn some truths about both the Coalition and humanity that have been kept from you. That's treason, Veltar whispered, though the word felt hollow even as he spoke it. Is it treason to question leaders who value a weapon more than their people? Morrison asked. Is it treason to seek truth? Zix moved to Veltar's side. Captain, these humans saved us when our own people left us to die. At the very least, we owe them the courtesy of hearing what they know. Glix, who had been silent until now, added his voice. The Admiral ordered the destruction of the Iron Resolve without hesitation, the ship that responded to our distress call when no one else would. That's not the Coalition I swore to serve. Veltar looked at his crew, all now conscious, all watching him with expressions ranging from confusion to determination. They trusted him to make the right decision. But what was right in this situation? If we go with you, he asked Morrison carefully, what guarantee do we have of our safety? Morrison's expression softened slightly. The same guarantee we always offer. We protect those who seek honest partnership. Unlike your coalition, we do not abandon our allies. It was Glix who broke the tense silence that followed. Captain, I've been monitoring coalition communications since we regained partial systems. There's something you should see. The view screen shifted to display an encrypted coalition transmission that Glix had somehow managed to intercept. The message was brief, but unmistakable. Asset compromised, crew expendable, recover package at all costs. They never intended to rescue us, Zix whispered. Even before the humans arrived, Veltar's worldview crumbled around him. Everything he had believed about the Coalition, its principles, its honor, its commitment to all sentient life, collided with the cold reality before him. How much time do we have before they arrive? He asked, his decision made. 4 hours and 37 minutes, Morrison replied. Just enough time. Time for what? To prepare a proper welcome, Morrison said with the first genuine smile Veltar had seen from the human. And to get your crew safely aboard the Iron Resolve. What followed was a flurry of activity that left Veltar's head spinning. The human engineers, working with Zix, began a systematic transfer of essential data from the Celestial Dawn's computers. Meanwhile, Dr. Grant supervised the relocation of the still-recovering crew members to the human vessel, where medical facilities far superior to anything Veltar had ever seen awaited them. Throughout it all, Lieutenant Colonel Brooks and a team of specialists made their way to the cargo hold where the dimensional disruptor was secured. Veltar accompanied them, his sense of duty still strong enough to ensure the classified technology was handled properly. What he witnessed there defied his expectations. The humans didn't simply seize the disruptor, they meticulously documented it, scanning every component with devices that seemed to peel away its secrets layer by layer. You already understand how it works, Veltar realized aloud as he watched them. Brooks glanced at him, her expression unreadable. Let's just say this isn't the first disruptor we've encountered, though it is the most advanced coalition model we've seen. But how? The technology is top secret, developed in isolation by our most secure research facilities. Is it? Brooks raised an eyebrow. Or is it based on principles first discovered by humans before the quarantine? Principles that certain coalition officials have been quietly exploiting while keeping their sources hidden? Before Veltar could respond to this shocking suggestion, his personal communicator chirped. It was Morrison. Captain, we have a situation. Admiral Keithmore's vessel has arrived ahead of schedule. He's requesting permission to board the Celestial Dawn immediately. Veltar's blood ran cold. The battle group? Not yet in range, just his command ship. This might actually work to our advantage. Please return to the bridge. When Veltar arrived, he found Morrison calmly seated in the captain's chair, looking for all the world like he belonged there. At a nod from the human, Veltar opened the channel. Admiral Keithmore, he greeted, fighting to keep his voice steady. This is Captain Veltar. The Admiral's face appeared on screen, his expression severe. Captain, I see you've survived your encounter with the humans. Are they still aboard? Yes, Admiral. They've been most helpful in repairing our systems. Keithmore's eye ridge twitched slightly, the only indication of his displeasure. I'm coming aboard to assess the situation personally. Prepare your docking bay. The transmission ended before Veltar could object. He's alone? Veltar asked Morrison incredulously. Not alone, but his escort is minimal. A calculated risk to reach the disruptor before the main battle group arrives. Morrison stood, straightening his uniform. He doesn't know that we've already secured the device and transferred most of your crew to our ship. What are you planning? Veltar asked, suddenly uneasy. Morrison's smile was cold. A little education, Captain, for both Admiral Keithmore and yourself. Admiral Keithmore arrived with only 2 security officers, his confidence apparent in every step as Veltar escorted him to the bridge. The Admiral barely acknowledged the human presence, treating Captain Morrison and Lieutenant Colonel Brooks with the dismissive air one might reserve for primitive beings. The disruptor, he demanded without preamble. Where is it? Secure in the cargo hold, Veltar answered truthfully, though he omitted that it was now under human control. Good. When the battle group arrives, we will transfer it to my command ship, the humans. He cast a contemptuous glance at Morrison. Will be dealt with appropriately for violating quarantine. Morrison stepped forward, his posture relaxed yet somehow commanding the space. Admiral Keithmore, before we proceed with your plans, perhaps you'd like to explain to Captain Veltar why the Coalition abandoned his ship to die, only to then send a battle group when humans responded to their distress call. Keithmore's eyes narrowed. I don't answer to quarantined species, human. Your presence here is a violation of the treaty your predecessor Admiral Cheng negotiated with Earth 50 years ago. Morrison interrupted. The same treaty that established the quarantine as a mutual agreement, rather than the prison you portray it as to your citizens? A flicker of something, surprise, fear, crossed Keithmore's features before his expression hardened again. Whatever propaganda your government has fed you, human, it changes nothing. The disruptor is Coalition property, and you are in Coalition space. Am I? Morrison asked mildly. He tapped a command into the nearest console, and suddenly the view screen changed to display a three-dimensional star chart. According to the Treaty of Luna, this region falls within the buffer zone, neutral territory. But that's not really the issue here, is it, Admiral? With another tap, the display changed to show documents bearing Coalition security classifications, documents that should have been impossible for humans to access. Perhaps we should discuss Operation Hegemony Eclipse, Morrison suggested. Or the real reason General Thexvar ordered the disruptor transported so close to Earth's quarantine boundary. The color drained from Keithmore's face. How did you... Or maybe... Morrison continued relentlessly. We should tell Captain Veltar about the Coalition's arrangement with the Hegemony? About how certain high-ranking officials have been selling state secrets in exchange for technology and power? Veltar looked between Morrison and Keithmore, struggling to process what he was hearing. The Hegemony was a shadowy collective of systems that had broken from the Coalition decades ago, rumored to be building their strength for an eventual war. This is absurd, Keithmore blustered, but his confidence was clearly shaken. Captain Veltar, don't listen to these human lies. They aren't lies, though. Are they, Admiral? Brooks joined the conversation, her voice deadly quiet. She activated a small device on her wrist, and suddenly a holographic projection filled the center of the bridge. It showed Keithmore himself, meeting with figures whose features were obscured but whose hegemony insignias were clearly visible. The audio was crystal clear. The dimensional disruptor will be delivered as agreed. With it, the hegemony can finally break the human quarantine and access their technology directly. In return, my supporters and I expect the promised positions in the new government once the Coalition Council is removed from power. Silence fell over the bridge. Keithmore's security officers exchanged uncomfortable glances, their hands drifting toward their weapons but not quite reaching them. That's fabricated, Keithmore stammered, but his denial lacked conviction. Is it? Morrison asked. Perhaps we should contact the Coalition Council directly and let them decide. I'm sure they'd be interested to learn how close you came to delivering a weapon of mass destruction to their greatest enemy. A weapon based on stolen human research. No less. Veltar's mind raced. If what Morrison was saying was true, if high-ranking Coalition officials were conspiring with the hegemony, if the dimensional disruptor was based on human technology, if the quarantine was not what he had been taught, then everything he had believed about his government was a lie. Admiral, he said finally, his voice steadier than he felt. Is this true? Keithmore's expression contorted with rage. You dare question me? I am your superior officer. These humans have obviously corrupted you with their lies. We haven't told him anything yet. Admiral, Morrison said softly. But we're about to. You see, the quarantine wasn't imposed on humans by the Coalition. It was a mutual agreement. Humans would stay within their territory, developing their technology and culture without interference, while the Coalition promised not to attempt to appropriate human advancements by force. He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. Some in your government kept their word. Others, like General Thexvar and yourself, saw an opportunity for personal gain by selling those advancements to the highest bidder. Keithmore lunged for his weapon, but Brooks moved with startling speed, disarming him before he could clear his holster. The security officers, after a moment of tense hesitation, slowly raised their hands in surrender. Your battle group will arrive soon, Morrison acknowledged, but they'll find no evidence of the disruptor, no humans, and no reason to take action against Captain Veltar or his crew. Instead, they'll find detailed records of your treason, Admiral. Records we've just transmitted to 3 separate Coalition Council members known for their integrity. Keithmore's face had gone from pale to ashen. You can't. They'll never believe. The evidence is quite compelling, Morrison assured him. Especially with the verification codes provided by our friends within the Coalition Intelligence Service. You have agents in our intelligence service? Veltar couldn't help but ask. Morrison's smile was enigmatic. We have friends everywhere, Captain. The quarantine has never been as absolute as some would have you believe. In the hours that followed, Veltar witnessed a masterclass in strategic manipulation. The humans efficiently completed their analysis of the dimensional disruptor, rendering it inert while preserving all its technical specifications in their databases. They then carefully reassembled it to appear untouched, returning it to its secure container in the cargo hold. Admiral Keithmore and his security detail were confined to guest quarters, their communications restricted. Meanwhile, Morrison provided Veltar with a data crystal containing irrefutable evidence of the conspiracy involving Keithmore, General Thexvar, and several other high-ranking Coalition officials. What happens now? Veltar asked as they stood on the bridge, watching as the Iron Resolve prepared to disengage from the celestial dawn. Now you have a choice, Morrison replied. When the battle group arrives, you can tell them whatever version of events you believe will best serve justice. We've transferred most of your crew back aboard, now that your life support is stable. The disruptor appears untouched. Admiral Keithmore is in your custody. And if I tell them the truth about humans, about the conspiracy? Morrison considered this. Some will believe you. Many won't. The comfortable fiction of human quarantine serves too many interests to be abandoned easily. Then what was the point of all this? Veltar asked, gesturing to encompass everything that had transpired. The point, Captain, was to save lives, yours and your crew's, and perhaps to plant a seed of truth that might someday grow into something more. Morrison extended his hand in what Veltar recognized as a human gesture of respect. Whatever you decide, know that Earth will be watching. We always are. As Veltar awkwardly returned the handshake, Morrison added, Oh, and the Coalition might want to reconsider its approach to the Dimensional Disruptor project. The technology is fundamentally flawed. It will never function as Thexvar promised the hegemony. We could have told them that 50 years ago if they'd asked nicely. With those parting words, the humans departed, the Iron Resolve detaching from the celestial dawn and vanishing into the darkness of space with a burst of speed that still defied Veltar's understanding of physics. Barely an hour later, the Coalition battle group arrived, led by Commodore Length, a stern but fair officer known for his dedication to protocol. Captain Veltar, the Commodore greeted him via viewscreen. We received Admiral Keithmore's alert. Where is the human vessel? Veltar had spent the intervening time deciding his course of action. The evidence Morrison had provided was compelling, but he was under no illusions about the political storm it would create if released widely. Some secrets, perhaps, were best revealed selectively. The human vessel departed after rendering assistance. Commodore, he replied carefully. They responded to our distress call when our systems failed catastrophically. Without their help, my crew would have perished. Commodore Length frowned. Admiral Keithmore reported they had violated quarantine protocols and were attempting to seize the classified cargo. The Admiral is currently confined to quarters, Veltar stated, watching Length's expression shift to surprise. I have evidence he may have been compromised by hegemony interests. I request a secure channel to Coalition High Command to transmit this evidence, and a security detail to take the Admiral into custody. What followed was a carefully orchestrated revelation. Veltar provided the Coalition with evidence of Keithmore's treason, but he framed the human involvement as minimal, a passing ship that responded to a distress call, rendered assistance, and departed once coalition forces arrived. He reported the dimensional disruptor as damaged but secure, its technology still viable for further research. He said nothing of what Morrison had revealed about the quarantine's true nature. Nothing about human agents within coalition intelligence. Nothing about the technological sophistication he had witnessed aboard the Iron Resolve. Some truths, he decided, would remain his burden to bear, at least for now. Upon the Celestial Dawn's return to Coalition space, Veltar and his crew were debriefed extensively. Their story of catastrophic system failure, a desperate distress call answered by passing humans, and the uncovering of Admiral Keithmore's treason became the official narrative. They were commended for their resourcefulness and loyalty to the Coalition. In the months that followed, a quiet purge began within the highest echelons of Coalition leadership. General Thexvar disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Several high-ranking officers suddenly retired. The Dimensional Disruptor project was quietly shelved, officially due to insurmountable technical challenges. Veltar was promoted and reassigned to Coalition High Command, where his expertise in human interaction protocols was suddenly in high demand. Zix became a lead engineer on a new propulsion project that, coincidentally, incorporated principles similar to those she had observed on the Iron Resolve. Glix joined Coalition Intelligence, his particular talents for communications interception valued more than ever. Throughout it all, Veltar kept his most profound insights to himself. The gratitude he felt toward the humans who had saved them, the lingering unease about the foundations of Coalition society, the knowledge that somewhere beyond the quarantine boundary, humans were watching, waiting, developing technologies that continued to outpace Coalition understanding. Sometimes in the quiet moments between his new responsibilities, Veltar would stand at the viewport in his quarters, gazing at the distant stars, wondering when, not if, the galaxy would learn the truth about Earth and its inhabitants. The official quarantine remained in place. The Coalition citizens continued to believe the narrative they had been taught for generations. A select few guarded the truth, understanding the delicate balance of power that maintained peace. And somewhere in the vastness of space, human ships patrolled their boundaries, their existence a reminder of the lesson Veltar had learned firsthand. That mercy could be the most powerful weapon of all, and that those who wielded it deserved both gratitude and fear. For as Captain Morrison had demonstrated, Deathworlders never showed mercy out of weakness, but from a position of strength so secure that they could afford compassion where others would choose destruction. As he stared into the infinite darkness between the stars, Veltar whispered the truth he had come to understand. Deathworlders never show mercy unless it serves a greater purpose than vengeance. And in that realization lay both comfort and warning.